Fear doesn't usually stop you in the middle of action. It stops you before the action ever begins, before you apply, before you speak, before you try something that might fail. You imagine the embarrassment, the rejection, the moment things go wrong, and in your mind, the risk feels larger than the opportunity. So you choose the safer option, not once, but again and again, until one day you realize something uncomfortable. The life you wanted was always on the other side of the decisions you avoided. Fear has a strange effect on decision-making. It rarely argues with you directly. Instead, it quietly shifts your priorities. The question stops being, "What could this lead to?" and becomes, "What if this goes wrong?" Once that question takes control, your mind begins searching for reasons to step back. You notice the risks more than the opportunities. You imagine the embarrassment more vividly than the success. You start calculating everything that could break. And the more attention you give those possibilities, the more reasonable it feels to avoid the decision entirely. Over time, something subtle begins to change. You start organizing your life around avoiding risk. You choose the option that feels safer, the job that feels predictable, the path that attracts less attention, the decision that carries the smallest chance of failure. Each choice looks reasonable on its own, responsible, careful. But when enough decisions are made this way, a pattern begins to form. Your world becomes narrower, fewer risks, fewer uncomfortable moments, but also fewer opportunities for anything remarkable to happen. Think about someone who has an idea they care about, a project, a business, a change they've been imagining for years. They know it could work. They've thought about it dozens of times. They've even imagined how their life could look if it succeeded. But the moment comes when action is required. A message needs to be sent. An application needs to be submitted. A first step needs to be taken. And suddenly, the mind begins listing possibilities. What if it fails? What if people judge me? What if I'm not ready yet? So the step is delayed. Not forever, just for now. And for now slowly turns into months, sometimes years. This is how fear quietly shapes a life, not through one dramatic moment, but through hundreds of small decisions. The opportunity you didn't pursue, the conversation you avoided, the risk you postponed until it felt safer. Each moment seems small, forgettable. But decisions accumulate. And over time, the direction of your life begins to reflect the things you avoided more than the things you attempted. The difficult part about fear is that it often disguises itself as responsibility. It tells you to be realistic, to avoid unnecessary risk, to stay where things are predictable. And that advice sounds sensible, careful, even mature. But there is a hidden cost. When fear begins guiding too many decisions, your life starts orbiting around what feels safe instead of what could actually move you forward. You become very good at maintaining stability, very good at avoiding mistakes, but much worse at creating change. Fear will always have a voice. It will always be ready to list the reasons something might fail. But the direction of your life is not decided by the risks you imagine. It is decided by the actions you actually take. Every meaningful change begins at the moment when fear is still present, but you move anyway. Not because the risk disappeared, because you decided that standing still was the bigger one.